haven't the investment bankers got to you yet in terms of how you can ramp up your city budget and do more interesting things, build better highways and bring in the large corporations and so on?
Well, we would love to have a better access to capital. I think historically Oklahoma City suffered from an access to capital. It's getting a little better now. I think people are starting to believe in Oklahoma City a little bit more, and it's a little bit easier. But with the last banking issues of 2008, loans are just hard to get in general. I mean, it's harder to qualify for a loan, and so I think banks are still kind of tight, and I think that's one of the reasons.
So the way in which the California banks were, going out on a roadshow to get loans, the banks in Oklahoma weren't doing that.
That's
right.
What
What you're saying?
Well, we had 100 banks fail in the 1980s in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And we learned from that, and our banks became much more conservative, and we've prospered partially because of that conservative nature.
Okay, that's number one. But what about the investment bankers? Did they come in there and ask you to look at your receipts and collateralize them and generate even more receipts when the going was good?
Well, we would love to see more of that. Job creation in Oklahoma City does appear to me to be different from other places. Let me explain. I just finished earning my MBA from New York University, and we studied a lot of new businesses. And it seemed to me like there was a common theme of maybe 5 guys from Stanford get a patent and grow a business and then sell out to Google. And that's a successful business. They had an entrance and an exit, and they made money, and that was it. In Oklahoma City, it hardly ever happens that way. Our largest businesses in Oklahoma City usually started with 1 person or maybe 2. And now they've grown to have maybe 2,000, 3,000 employees. And it's very organic by nature. It's a very entrepreneurial spirit. And so when you grow slowly but gradually and solidly, I think it's much more stable. And we don't have a whole lot of businesses relocating to Oklahoma City. We have had to grow and organically and expand from our existing base. So, what few large companies we do have generally started in Oklahoma, very, very small, and have grown now to be very large employee centers.
As mayor who gets elected once every 4 years, isn't it tempting to go looking out for the anchor industries to come?
Oh, sure.
And how's that been going?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, just last year we had a company called Continental Resources relocate to Oklahoma. Very large company, but that's unusual. We had an NBA franchise that relocated from Seattle. The Seattle Supersonics relocated to Oklahoma City, became the Oklahoma City Thunder. But relocations don't happen all that much. I really believe your best opportunities for increasing your economy are from growing the businesses that are already in your community. And that's how we've been successful.
Has that influenced your philosophical thinking on how economies grow? What seems to be the problem with the United States today is that it's looking for that engine of growth, and a number of engines of growth that used to exist have sort of putted out, the automobile industry and so on. And then you live in Oklahoma where you're building them from the ground up organically, and they seem to be holding the economy. There's a multiplier effect of sorts that seem to work for you. Is that sort of working into your philosophy? If you were advising the U.S. president, what would you say?
Well, first of all, I think we need to invest in our infrastructure. I mean, I think we have infrastructure needs that are making it more difficult for businesses to be successful. I think in general you're seeing populations move to southern parts of the United States perhaps for better weather. But if I were looking at the United States as a whole, I'd be very concerned with a lot of the larger industrial cities in the Midwest and on the East Coast, because they have decreasing populations in many instances, and they also have way too much downtown infrastructure to be able to support from a real estate situation. And it seems to me that their infrastructure has a bunch of deferred maintenance, and there's no easy fix. Oklahoma City's not in that situation. We're poised to win, we're poised to grow and succeed in the coming years, and I'd be very concerned for a lot of those larger eastern cities that aren't in the same similar situation.
But the immediate future of your state budget, and also there's some issues with the pension liabilities that will be coming on stream in the next 5 years or so. Are you then suffering from a from a need to do something about your population mix, the young people in your population, to be able to make sure that you're going to be generating that income going forward?
Well, I think, I think the formulas that go into the pension situation for entry level is much different. We don't necessarily have pension issues at the city level. They're minor and something we can handle. At our state level, there's a little bit of a problem there that they're trying to address, but it's probably pretty small compared with what other states are trying to deal with. There's a change in perspective on unions in general in the United States, and I think Oklahoma probably has less of a union influence than most larger cities. And I tend to think that the entrepreneurs are going to be looking for that economy that can be driven by employees with sustainable funding models for salaries and compensation. I think I think today, if I'm a young person and I'm looking at the jobs in America, I'm thinking to myself, what you've got to be concerned with is creating long-term employability for yourself and not long-term employment, because I don't think you'll be staying with the company 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years like the previous generation did.